This is 5 and 10 from SkyWatch TV. Once again, a special program with guests in studio, recording a couple of programs that you will not want to miss. Coming up in the next month or so here on SkyWatch TV, the network program, that is. Joining us in studio today, the Messianic Rabbi behind Messiah of Israel Ministries, his website, messiahofisraelministries.org. And one of the co-authors of the book we'll be talking about on that future program, Rabbi Zev Porat. Zev, shalom.
Shalom.
Welcome. And the pastor of Hickory Hammock Baptist Church, author of best-selling books such as Gods and Thrones, Gods of Ground Zero, and together with Zev Porat, the author of The Messiah, The Secret Message, and the Rabbi, The Secret Message and the Identity of Messiah, Pastor Carl Gallups. Carl, welcome.
Derek, it's good to be with you. Thanks.
These are significant times for a couple of reasons, and we will delve more into the book in the broadcast programs coming up, and those will broadcast in May. But as we record this, of course, Israel just had national elections earlier than expected. They had snap elections there about 6 months ahead of originally scheduled, and it looks like Benjamin Netanyahu will be forming his fifth government with a narrow victory, about a 1/4 percentage point difference between his Likud party and the second party, blue and white, headed by Benny Gantz. Zev, we in America, we've got a two-party system, and those two parties, Republican and Democrat, yes, I know they're libertarians and Greens and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but the Republicans and Democrats essentially collude to keep the other parties from having a seat at the table. But that's not that way in Israel. What is the system like, and why? How is it different from here in the United States?
Well, in Israel, first of all, it's a prime minister. It's not a president.
Right.
The prime minister has to have a certain amount of parties together with him to form a coalition. And if he can't form the coalition, the fact that he was elected to be the prime minister doesn't do it. That's stage number one. You have two stages. But Benjamin Netanyahu, who's just been elected, has enough to form that coalition, maybe even more than enough.
So a number of the smaller parties that agree with his more conservative political views have agreed to become part of the government with him, which gives him enough seats in the Knesset then to form a majority.
Absolutely. Yeah. As I just mentioned, he probably has more seats than needed, and he's going to have to choose between one or two. So his position is very good. We're very excited about it. And look, the people of Israel know that Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump are working together. And in fact, the news yesterday reported something, I didn't see it in the American news, that Benjamin Netanyahu is on the way to the White House, which basically means he's on the way to work with Trump together. And you mentioned that it was 6 months early. I see God's hand all upon it, because exactly in the time of the Mueller investigation where Trump was exempt, was released
exonerated,
from it, exonerated by same time that he gave, the writing that he agreed with the sovereignty of the Golan Heights.
Right.
And then because of that, God releasing him, I will bless those that bless Israel. Well, he released him because he's not guilty, but I mean, he chose that period of time to do it. And at the same time, Benjamin Netanyahu gets elected. Time zone, biblically wise, 70th year of the nation of Israel, from the story of Esther, which is Haman, the story of Esther, to the period of our salvation, Passover, Jesus. The elections are right there. We're a week away from Passover. Significant time biblically also. Significant time in the politics and everything that we're seeing around the world prophetically, as we know that everything is about Israel. It started Israel, it ended Israel. People of Israel are excited. Benjamin Netanyahu also said something remarkable. He said, I'm going to keep my word like Donald Trump does. So Donald Trump is showing a great example for the people of Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu recognizes this, and he says that he's gonna be a yes man like Donald Trump. Basically, I'm going to do what I say I'm going to.
One of the things that we noticed when we were in Israel last year, and we were blessed to have been there when on the 70th anniversary of Israel's Declaration of Independence.
We're still in that year now.
And we're in the 70th year now. But we were there on the day when the American embassy moved. And we saw more support for President Trump in Jerusalem than we see in Washington, D.C. How much of an impact on the election do you think was President Trump's support for Prime Minister Netanyahu?
80%, 90%. And the reason is because the people, they had posters all over Israel, on the internet, on Ynet News, showing that vote for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And right next to his picture, they put Donald Trump. What does Donald Trump have to do with it? Because they're showing that connection together. Look, in this presidency with Benjamin Netanyahu, the embassy was moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. In this presidency, right before the elections, the sovereignty of the Golan Heights. We're going to continue to move forward for the security of Israel. Donald Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu, positioned by the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob for such a time like this. You and I understand it prophetically more. The Jews maybe a little bit less, but they do understand that these two men, as the Israeli news said, the two most hated men in the world are working together.
Now, Carl, you've said this before, and I borrowed your phrase for one of the broadcast programs. We're living in the most prophetically significant age since the first century.
Yes.
As Zev said, President Trump's statement that, okay, we're going to acknowledge Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights, strategically important, critical location that Israel should not give up. But Benjamin Netanyahu also saying last week that if he's reelected, he's going to annex the settlements in the West Bank,
Yes.
Judea and Samaria,
Yes,
the heartland
he'll
of the
do
Bible.
it. And Trump will support him.
He'll
So-
do it. That's why he said, I'm going to be like Trump. My yes is yes and my no is no.
So how do you filter this as somebody who's been looking at these prophetic signposts along the way? How do you process all this?
It's powerfully prophetic. It's powerfully and deeply spiritual. As Zev just ended his dialogue with you there, these are the two most hated men in the world as far as the nations go. More than 50% of America loves Donald Trump and will vote for him again in 2020, I'm convinced. The vast majority of Israel loves Benjamin Netanyahu. The two of them really like each other, and they're working hard. They're not yes men to each other. In other words, they don't just do everything each other says, but they negotiate. Their minds, their hearts in the same path, and this love for Israel, both of them have. It's powerful. That is prophetic. Because the nation, as you know, has only been there 70 years. And when that came back, that was the completion of the revelation of a 2,700-year-old prophecy. And then for Jerusalem to be officially and legally now declared as the capital and the home of the American embassy, that's another 2,700-year-old prophecy that happened just in our lifetime. Just a few months ago, we're living in the midst of these prophecies. Even the declaration of the Golan Heights, sovereignty over the land. And then these elections. Donald Trump should not have won, humanly speaking. He's never even served on a PTA anywhere. Yet he walks through a field of 17, most of them deep state candidates. The Clinton machine, the Bush machine, the Obama machine, a lot of others that were deep state. A couple of them probably weren't deep state, but a lot of them were. And he walks through to become the most powerful man on the planet that the planet has ever seen to date. And then he's aligned with Benjamin Netanyahu, the most powerful leader that Israel has ever seen, 5 terms now, a record, and especially since it has been reborn. And those two see almost eye to eye on this whole Middle East and Israel's place in it. The Word of God declares, Ezekiel 5:5, God says, Jerusalem, Israel, it is the center. I have placed you as the center of the nations. You are the apple of my eye. Now that's God's word, okay? In Zechariah and in Luke, Luke says it in Jesus, and Zechariah, the prophecy is that in the last days, assuming, of course, the return of Israel, then Jerusalem being the center of it all again, that the nations will eventually just surround the whole thing with hate. They will want it gone. They will hate everything about Israel and Jerusalem and the leadership. Well, that's where we're living. The United Nations voting. Listen, the United Nations, I read yesterday, is getting ready to vote again, pass another resolution on the Golan Heights, saying that they disagree with all of that. I mean, so you got both of these men under Mueller investigation, under indictment. Mueller, the left, the wicked, just constantly attacking them both. This is very spiritual. There's a lot of demonic involved. There's a lot of hand of God. There's a cosmic war going on right before our eyes. And it's all over Jerusalem and Israel, because that's ground zero to everything. It all began there. It's all going to culminate there. That's where Jesus Christ will rule and reign again, and Satan knows it. So that's the connection.
Yeah.
And both of these men, also Netanyahu and also Trump, both are going to tell the UN what they've been saying. We don't care.
We don't care. We don't care what you say. Yeah.
Well, that's why we need to pray for our elected leaders, because they are under all kinds of attack.
Yes.
And a lot of the opponents who are coming against them in the natural realm may not even be aware that they are being prodded and pushed and manipulated by the principalities and powers and cosmic rulers over this present darkness that Paul warned us about.
You're right. In our day, we're watching prophecy that started like this. Come together, come together, come together. And it's not like this yet. That will be the culmination of it all. But it's like this. I mean, it's all converging right before our eyes in only And only our historical generation has seen this, especially since the rebirth of Israel just 70 little short years ago, not even 2 fistfuls of decades, just 70. And look where it's gone from black and white TV 48 years ago, 70 years ago, to where we are now, and all the technology exploding before us. A lot of that technology, by the way, coming out of Israel.
Yes.
Computer technology, medical technology, cell phone technology, communications technology coming out of Israel.
And the desert blooming, which was
blooming.
prophesied in Ezekiel 36.
Even if it doesn't rain over there, it blooms. That's what
Yeah,
Zev
that's
was
right.
saying.
It doesn't matter. It rains, it doesn't rain, everything green, everything grows.
Yeah.
Best watermelons in the world, best fruit in the world.
Oh,
I'm not saying
absolutely.
it because I'm Israeli. I'm just saying it because God's blessing the nation.
Well, we can vouch for that because we had the opportunity last year to sample some of the produce, and we'll be doing it in just about 1 month from today, in fact, as we'll be flying over there for the SkyWatch TV tour of Israel, and honored that you and your wife, Lynn, will be joining us as we travel from Dan to, well, maybe not Beersheba, but pretty close anyway.
Yes.
Looking forward to it.
Yes, this is going to be an amazing time. Well, interesting times in which we live. Please mark your calendars and watch for SkyWatch TV, the network broadcast, because in May, 2 programs featuring Carl and Zev and their book, The Rabbi, The Secret Message, and the Identity of Messiah, including a bombshell revelation that has never been disclosed anywhere before. We're saving it for the network programs, but you won't want to miss those programs. Gentlemen, an honor as always. Shalom.
Thank you, Derek. Shalom.
Carl, and we thank you for watching as we keep watch. With Zev Porat and Carl Gallups, I'm Derek Gilbert. This is 5 in 10 from SkyWatch TV.
Former Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon has died, aged 80.
We are with one of Rabbi Kaduri's disciples.
הצלחה רבה, והצלחה רבה ומהירה, בתוך ביאת משיח צדקנו בקרוב ממש, ואז ישפיע על כל כדור